The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Welcome to Aging Horizons. On today's show, we'll be talking about driving Montana highways. We're one heck of a big state, and we have a lot of distractions inside our car, outside our car, that many are preventable. And the consequences of these distractions can be injuries to ourselves and other people, and a lot of damage to our expensive vehicles. We'll be talking about what those are and how you can avoid them, so stay tuned.
Can you say ombudsman?
Ombudsman. Benson?
Uma Doodlesman? Fortunately, you don't have to say it right to get the help of a long-term care ombudsman. If you or a loved one reside in assisted living or long-term care, an ombudsman can help resolve any issue. And these services are completely free and confidential. Now, why don't you try that again?
Ombudsman.
Did you just text me?
I didn't want to disturb you if you were sleeping.
Sleeping? I'm sitting right next to you, silly.
There you are. Hey, I found a couple of Medicare helping programs online that I think we ought to look into.
It says if we qualify, we can get help paying for our prescription drugs. Oh, and there's a program that can help pay our Part B premium.
To learn more about extra help and Medicare savings programs, call your local SHIP counselor today.
Maybe I better text him.
You've probably seen some big-name celebrities on your TV lately talking about all the Medicare benefits you're missing out on. But the insurance companies who are paying for these ads may be pushing benefits not available in Montana. Fortunately, help is available from a friendly state health insurance assistance program counselor who can help you sort it all out. It's free, and we screen everyone for eligibility regardless of your zip code. It's Montanans helping Montanans. Call today.
A message from FireSafe Montana. Being a part of a community means working towards the safety of all. As a landowner in the wildland-urban interface, this means doing your part to protect your community from a devastating wildfire. Have you done your part? Fuel mitigation projects, ignition-resistant construction techniques, defensible space, safe evacuation routes. FireSafe Montana and your local fire authority can help. This message brought to you by FireSafe Montana and aired by the Montana Broadcasters Association.
Hi folks, and welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services Senior and Long-Term Care Division. I'm your host, Brian Lamore. We're talking about distracted driving. We've got an expert from the state here, as the state has 17,000 employees that are driving occasionally because of their jobs. We don't want them to be in an accident, and we want them to be aware of other distracted drivers. And this is good information, so it probably applies to both you and I. Of course, we have an expert from the state of Montana. We have Mike Anderson here, the Department of Admin, Risk Management, Tort Defense, Loss Prevention Specialist. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Great. Well, distracted driving, that's a pretty broad term. Can you kind of tell us what that is and why it's important that we're not distracted?
Well, when you're driving, there's three different types of distractions. There's manual distractions, anything that would take your hands away from the wheel. There's visual distractions, anything that take your eyes away from the road. And then there's cognitive distractions, that is anything that takes your mind out of thinking about driving.
Okay. Well, let's start at the top. What's the manual ones?
Anything that you're doing in the vehicle, like changing the radio station or any of the internal controls, or having a sandwich or a piece of pizza, a bowl of cereal. I've seen people, I don't know how they do that. Maybe they drive with their knee, but they're eating a bowl of cereal. Anything that you do with your hands other than having them on the steering wheel, which is where they should be.
Right. Yeah. Well, I know I just bought a new truck, and there's so many things that you can press and change and adjust, and what's going on here.
Right.
It's fine print, so it's like, so, yeah, but it's okay. What we need to do is just pull over, park, and do those adjustments if we need to, right?
The biggest thing to think about with distracted driving is that it's a choice. You don't have to drive distracted.
Yeah.
You can choose to drive distracted or choose to not drive distracted. And so people don't really think about that. And the thing with distracted driving is 99 out of 100 times we get away with it.
Yeah.
And so we become complacent, right? And so then we don't worry about it as much as we should. But the fact is, in the last 5 years, the number of deaths in our country has skyrocketed. The number of crashes, car crashes, has skyrocketed. We're losing now over 105 people a day on our highways.
Wow.
You know, and a lot of it is due to drivers being distracted.
And when you were saying that, it just popped into my mind about our telephones. So many people are on phones, and I remember initially a lot of law enforcement were enforcing no phones. I don't see that really happening now.
Yeah, this is one of the worst things about distracted driving. This distracts you in all three ways, because it's in your hand, you're looking at it, so it's a visual distraction, and when you're in a conversation, it's a cognitive distraction. And so it's really dangerous because it distracts you in all three ways.
And I was thinking another manual thing is other individuals in the car and pets, you know, because the pet wants your attention and it's like, okay, good boy.
Right.
You know,
I've seen drivers with pets actually on their laps looking out the window. I don't understand that. I don't allow my dog to do that. I put my dog in the back seat. You know, and a good thing to do actually is to get a tether that hooks into the seatbelt of your vehicle and onto the harness of your dog. So that if you are in a frontal crash, that dog is not flying around in your vehicle.
It protects the poochie too, or the cat.
It does, yeah, it protects you both.
I saw someone the other day with a parrot, but anyway, it protects them all. But now another area is visual distractions. What are some of the visual ones we need to be aware of?
Well, we live in the most beautiful state in the Union, right? So we got a lot of visual distractions, waterfalls, glaciers, animals, all kinds of different things, and you know, and even car wrecks. You know, I was a firefighter for 25 years, and people driving by a car accident are like this, right? They want to see what's going on. Well, what happened towards the end of my career is we started getting what we called secondary crashes. And that was people just not paying attention and running into each other or running into our apparatus on the scene. So,
and that apparatus is expensive. You don't want to pay to repair that.
Yeah, that's true.
Very expensive. Now, how about cognitive distractions?
Cognitive distractions, that's anything that takes your brain out of the game. Anything that you're talking, like if you and I are in a conversation on the phone, I'm thinking about that conversation, not driving, right? And people used to think that you could multitask. Well, here's an example. You could probably talk on the phone and take a note. That's multitasking. But you can't talk on the phone and drive. Your brain can't do both at the same time at 100%. So basically what's happening is your brain is switching back and forth between those two tasks, and it just becomes dangerous.
And it's not switching fast enough for many times for the speeds that we're going, because we have a very narrow time to react, don't we?
Yes, absolutely. At 70 miles an hour, you're traveling 102 feet per second.
Wow.
You know, I mean, things are happening pretty quickly out on the highway.
And we have to be looking down the road. We talked about that in the winter survival type stuff.
That's right. We want you to look long. And we're talking 12 to 15 seconds ahead of your vehicle. The fact is, the sooner you identify a hazard, the less likely you are to become part of it. Right?
And many times those hazards are Montana's animals, and we enjoy watching them, but they're very unpredictable. Are they going to go left? Are they going to go right? Are they going to go over the top of your car? You don't want that. I've seen that happen too many times if you drive enough. But we'll continue our discussion about distracted driving, how easily it is to be distracted. We'll bring up some examples and you go, yeah, I was there. So stay tuned.
Elder abuse is a growing problem, and it's happening right here in our Montana communities. At least 1 in 10 older adults are victims of physical or emotional abuse, financial exploitation, or neglect. To get help or report elder abuse, call your local area agency on aging or Adult Protective Services at 1-844-277-9300.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
You mean I can get help paying my prescription drug premiums?
Let me get this straight. I could be eligible for help with my family's prescription premiums even though I own my own home?
And our assets won't be counted.
If you're a Montana resident enrolled in the Medicare prescription drug program, you could be eligible for help paying your premiums. Call or visit the Big Sky RX website today to find out, even if you think you're over income.
What do you know about that? I'm eligible.
When I found out it was diabetes, my first thought was, Barb, you need help. You have to take control of this. There is help. My doctor gave me a phone number. I called and signed up with a diabetes educator. There is help. I have to put blinders on when I walk past the bakery counter. I can feel my blood sugar go up. You succeed a little at a time. If you have diabetes, help is available. You do not have to do it alone.
Ask your doctor about diabetes education or visit montana211.org.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. I'm your host, Brian Lamore, and continuing our discussion about distracted driving. We have an individual who works for the state that teaches state employees, over 17,000 of them, how not to be distracted. And such good information, we're sharing that with you. Rejoining us now is Mike Anderson, you're the Department of Admin, Risk Management, Tort Defense. You're a loss prevention specialist. And, you know, when we left the last segment, we were talking about, generalized, hands-free things, how to keep your hands on your steering wheel. But hands-free isn't always a great invention, is it?
Well, it's not. Initially, I think it had good intentions. I really do. Because you can, with hands-free, keep both hands on the wheel. But you have to consider cognitive. If you're thinking about that conversation, you're still distracted. It's much like having a conversation with somebody in the vehicle. And people always compare it, and they say, well, it's better than having the phone to your head. Well, they've actually done studies on that. And it turns out at the end of the day, and I can't explain the science, but at the end of the day, the result is that hands-free is actually a little bit more distracting than handheld. Because handheld, when you have this in your hand, you know that you're distracted. And so you make certain compensations for that.
Okay.
When you're talking on the phone hands-free, you don't necessarily understand that you're distracted. You're just having a conversation. And cognitively, you're in that conversation and not looking or not thinking about driving.
Not thinking about driving, because so many things in front of you can happen in an instant, and you got a little bit of a delay, and that's too much.
Yeah.
Well, what are some other distracted driving points that we haven't covered so far?
Well, one interesting study that they did is your reaction time when you're distracted is very similar to your reaction time if you're driving drunk.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so that was an interesting study that they came up with. As we all know, if you're intoxicated, that's the biggest problem, is your reaction time. Well, if you're using one of these, your reaction time is very similar to being drunk. Now, we wouldn't even think about driving a car after we've been drinking. But nobody thinks about this, right? And so, just as lethal, but culture hasn't caught up yet to where this is not acceptable. People still think that it's acceptable to do that. Where drinking and driving is not acceptable.
Not acceptable.
And so,
well, too, I know I worked fires too, and I had problems with sleep deprivation. And I know with the Forest Service, at 10 o'clock at night, you park your vehicle. You don't go any further. You don't drive past 10 because there's drunk drivers out there, but plus you're very sleepy and tired. And I'll equate that to be kind of like drunk driving because you don't have your faculties with you. I imagine state employees, when they're wherever they're at, they want to get home. Fatigue has to be a big issue with them too. What's your advice on that?
Fatigue, if you know that you're driving, say, from Helena to Billings, don't stay up and watch the Late Show, right? I mean, think about these things in advance and get a good night's sleep. If something happens in the middle of the night and you're up for 2-3 hours, maybe you should have somebody else drive the next day, right? If that's a possibility. If it's not, maybe you cancel the meeting and you don't go. I don't know. But, you know, there's other things that you can do to fight fatigue. Coffee, for instance, you know, you can make more frequent stops than you normally would. Get out, walk around, have not coffee, but water. You know, maybe do some exercise, you know, that sort of thing.
Okay. Well, let's talk about, you know, when we're distracted, when we're traveling at 70 miles an hour, the amount of time a distraction takes, how far can we travel? It's really a lot further than you think.
It really is. If you're going down the road and you have your phone up front, the best thing is shut the ringer off and put it in the back or put it in the glove box. But if you have your phone there, which a lot of people do, and you get a notification that you get a text, it's really tempting to reach down and grab that phone, right? And so if you do, the average time that you're going to look at that phone is 4.6 seconds. Doesn't seem like much, right?
Yeah.
But at 70 miles an hour, you're going to travel 474 feet, or 1 2/3 football fields, just in the time you look down to see who just texted you. You don't even respond. It's just looking at it to see who just texted you. So think about what can happen in 1 2/3 football fields. A lot of things. An animal could come out of the ditch. The car coming at you could be coming across the center line. There's a lot of things.
And then there's multiple distractions. We put all these together, and tell us more about the multiples and how bad they are.
Well, I mean, you can have, you know, I've seen people reading books going down the highway. Audio books, same thing, a little bit safer, but you're still, you're involved in that story. Like anybody that reads a book, if it's a good book, you're involved in the story, right?
Yes.
Well, even with an audio book, if you have earbuds or headphones, you're still thinking about that story and not driving.
Right.
And so, there's all kinds of different distractions. And again, like I said at the beginning of the segment, driving distracted is a choice.
Right.
It really is. You do not have to drive distracted. And the problem with distractions is that 99 out of 100 times you get away with it. And so we become complacent.
And the one time something happens and you're not paying attention, there's a lot of cost, either physical or financial, to your vehicle or the other individual. Now we're talking in the next segment about what gets people killed the most. Interesting information. Stay tuned.
Respite care is amazing. If you are capable of doing it, the rewards are beyond measure.
Stephanie Young, respite care provider, on the unexpected benefits of helping people in need.
Being a respite care provider is an amazing experience. It's something that what you give, you get back 100-fold. You receive so much more than you could ever imagine.
To find out how to change lives, including your own, go to respite.mt.gov.
I think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
This is Bill. He just received his new Medicare card and is following some simple rules to protect himself from fraud. He knows to never give out his Medicare, Social Security, or bank number over the phone. And this is Nancy. She knows that to detect any problems, she always reads her Medicare summary notice or Medicare Advantage EOB to make sure the billing is correct. Both Bill and Nancy know that anything suspicious can be reported to Montana SMP at 1-800-551-3191.
I've been shooting since I was young. It's something I've always enjoyed. I wasn't feeling like myself, but my friend noticed. He asked if he could hold onto my guns temporarily. At first, I was a little shocked, but then I agreed. I think he saved my life that day.
Hi folks, welcome back to Aging Horizons. I'm your host Brian Lamore, and we're talking about distracted driving. The state of Montana has over 17,000 employees, and the majority of them drive occasionally with their jobs. So we have some classes for them on distracted driving and winter driving. Rejoining us is Mike Anderson. And Mike, people die in cars. What gets them killed the most?
They do. You know, nationwide we lose over 100 people a day.
Wow.
100 people a day. That's a huge number. And that's just getting worse. The number of crashes over the past 5 years has gone through the roof. Number of injuries, number of deaths is also on the rise. Some of the main things that are killing people on our highways is speed. Speed is number one. Over 25% of all fatalities in the United States involve too much speed. And there's not really a lot you can say about speed, because every time each one of us gets behind the wheel, it's our choice how fast we're going to drive that vehicle. Yes. So, you know, I mean, you slow it down is about all I can say. Number two killer in our country is right-of-way. You know, Montana statute says at an uncontrolled intersection, the person on the left shall yield to the person on the right. Well, most people think that the person on the right has the right-of-way. Now, very subtle and different in reading, but huge in meaning. And the reason is, if you assume that you have the right-of-way, that can really get you in trouble, because the other person may not stop. And so really causes a lot of accidents. Roundabouts, many people don't like them. I understand that. It's just a matter of getting used to it. But roundabouts are up to 80% safer than a traditional intersection.
Ah, great.
They just are. I mean, you know, we have people running into each other all the time. We're never going to get away from that.
Yeah.
But if we can slow them down before they hit one another, then there's a lot less injuries, a lot less deaths.
Right.
So, anyway, another thing with right-of-way is a problem that's getting much worse is pedestrians. Oh. We've already lost 7 pedestrians here in Montana just this year. Oh. Nationwide, last year, was about 6,400 people. Oh. And the thing is, and you've seen this, you see people walking down the sidewalk on their phone.
Yes.
Right? How many times have you seen that in a crosswalk?
Well, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yes.
People just assume that the cars are going to stop because they're a pedestrian.
They got the right-of-way.
Yeah, they think they got the right-of-way. But what they don't consider is that the driver going down the street is also on his phone.
Yes.
Or his or her.
Yes.
And so that's becoming a huge problem, is pedestrians.
Yeah.
And it just shouldn't be happening. Shouldn't.
Yeah. And then I think another one is that left of center, people aren't driving down the road.
Yes. Actually, people sometimes go into the other lane. They cross the center line on purpose to overtake or to pass another vehicle. Sometimes they do it on accident. Sometimes in the wintertime, you don't even know where the center line is.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that can really become a problem. And that is the third biggest killer in our country is people either trying to pass or, again, people are distracted and just go across that center line. Have you noticed that now they're putting rumble strips down the center?
Yes, yeah.
You ever wonder why?
Well, now we know.
Now we know, right?
Yeah, get their attention.
Yeah. And so, if you think about that, how far across that center line do you have to get before it can be a problem?
No, not far at all.
2 or 3 feet. How long does it take to get across? 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And so things are happening really fast out there. And so you just got to be paying attention. You can't be distracted. The fourth killer in our country is tailgating. Most people don't think of tailgating as a huge problem.
Yeah.
It's an annoyance.
Yes.
If you've ever been tailgated, it really does create a lot of emotion.
Yes.
People get mad, they get anxious, they get sad. There's just a whole gamut of emotions. And a lot of people don't do it on purpose. They're not aggressive drivers. There's 2 different kinds of tailgaters. One is an aggressive driver that really wants to do it. The other one is just a normal person that doesn't realize how dangerous it is to tailgate.
Yeah.
Right? And so either one can be deadly. Because last thing you want to do, first thing I would tell you, remain calm.
Yeah.
Right? Don't hit the brakes, because if you do, they're going to hit you. And so we recommend the 3-second rule. And what that is we want you to have 3 seconds between you and the car in front of you. And the fact is, if you're within that 3 seconds, if you're at 2.5, and they do an emergency stop, you're going to hit them. And people don't understand that. And it's not because you're a bad driver. It's not because you're not paying attention. It's physics. You cannot react quickly enough to not hit them.
Oh, interesting.
And people don't understand that. And so, we talked earlier about putting more space between you and that vehicle in front of you.
Yeah.
And so tailgating, obviously, when you're right up close, is even worse.
Yeah. And then quickly passing is a big death trap.
It is. And you have to, every time you come up behind somebody, you have to consider, is it worth, doing?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, a good example is here in Montana, we always have that old farm truck, right? On a 70-mile-an-hour road, they're doing 60, and you come up behind them. You have to ask yourself, is it worth passing that, risking my own life and possibly others to get around this truck?
It's usually not. And
it's
we've drawn
usually
to
not.
Close on our third segment. Thank you so much for all this wonderful information. I know I learned a lot, and our viewers did too. If you'd like to watch this show again, we're on YouTube. Look up Aging Horizons, because it's good to refresh everything. Thanks for joining us.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.